everyone. Welcome to Women Entrepreneurs Radio, and I'm your host, Deborah Bailey. Really glad that you could join me today. And if you're listening to this show on the podcast directory or you're listening on iTunes, then you can come to blogtalkradio.com/CoachDeb. And you will also find shows there going back to 2008, so that's another place you can find our archive of shows with different entrepreneurs who stopped by and shared their stories. So definitely make sure you check that out. Also, Facebook.com/WomenEntrepreneurs. You can like the page and share information if you have a business or you have any questions. That's a good place to go. And also the blog, WomenEntrepreneursSecrets.blogspot.com is a blog, and you can go there and check out the bios of show guests. Often the extended bio will be there because there's a word count limit on Blog Talk Radio. So you can go there and check out bios and any links that guests may also provide. And there's announcements and articles of interest to women entrepreneurs. So if you have any information you'd like to share, any posts, you can click the Contact Us button and send a query about having your article posted there. Or if you have a book that you've come out with, I post written interviews there or just features about different entrepreneurs. So you can check it out there. Anything looks good to you, then just hit the Contact Us and you'll get the guidelines for the blog. And also under the radio heading in the menu, you can find guidelines for the show as well that'll let you know what information that I'll need and what the show is about. So that's also a place you can go and check out more about the show. And also my website, DeborahABailey.com, DeborAH. abailey.com is where you can find out more about me and other things that I'm up to and books I've written and other services that I have and blogs and all kinds of good stuff. So that's a one-stop shop for you to go and check out what I'm up to. So I think I've covered all the good stuff, all the places you can go and check out more about me in the show. So we're going to start with my guest, Lauren Bowling. Is an award-winning blogger, freelance writer, and marketing strategist. And in April 2015, she left her full-time day job to work for her own content marketing company, Beehive Content, and focus more on her growing personal finance brand and blog, LB and the Money Tree. She is 28 years old and lives in Atlanta, Georgia. So welcome, Lauren. I'm really glad to have you here.
Hi, Deborah. Thanks for having me.
This is very intriguing because for many reasons, for one, I'm sure you come across a lot of people who are like, boy, I'm ready to quit my job and go out there and do my thing. I think across the board that's definitely a desire so many people have. And then also blogging, which I always seeing the people interested in how they can create something and build on it. And, of course, branding, yet another topic that people really want to try to understand better. So you've got a lot of good stuff here, that you could share with us. But, just to get started, could you give a little bit more background on, what led you to decide, I'm going to step out there and do my own thing?
It's been sort of a long, drawn-out process over the last 3 years. I never would have thought when I graduated college 5 years ago that I'd be working for myself, that I'd be a blogger, an online entrepreneur. I have a theater degree. I moved to New York City to be an actor and had some serious money problems, got into a lot of credit card debt in college, so I had to take a desk job when I moved to New York City, and that happened to be at a big money hedge fund. So I was able to use that salary to pay down my credit card debt, and while I was there, I learned a lot of cool things about money management. 2 years later, I left New York City. I didn't want to be an actor. I didn't want to be an assistant, so I moved back home to try and plot my next step. And my mom read an article in USA Today about ways millennials can keep their skills sharp while they're looking for jobs, and blogging was one of them. And when I was a little kid, I always wrote plays and then I performed in them. And my parents thought that performing in them meant that I needed to be nurtured as an actor, but I really loved writing, and that's sort of always been there, and blogging was a way for that to come out. So then I started my personal finance blog, LB the Money Tree, but because I didn't have any experience, I still needed to find a full-time day job, so I started interviewing again for assistant positions and figured I'd do that while I do the blog while I worked my administrative assistant job. But I went for an interview at a startup here in Atlanta, and the CEO was very interested in people's passions. And I said, well, I have this great passion for personal finance and writing in my blog, and I was just getting into social media at the time. This was 2012. And he said he didn't hire me for that job, but he called me back 3 weeks later and said, I want you to come run the blog for my company. And from there, my career in marketing was kind of born. And I've been working in marketing for almost 4 years now, just based on the blog. So it's not only been a great tool to, like, brand myself, but then also to jumpstart a career without having to go back to school, which is very important to me. So it's been very serendipitous and lovely. And and so that's how that all kind of came about. Working in marketing, I was able to take on freelance clients. Eventually, the freelance client work became so big, I was able to leave my full-time job and work for myself, so I could devote all of my time and energy to my growing personal finance brand.
Wow. Well, that's very interesting because it really wasn't, a straight line, you could say. You were heading in one direction and then you realized there was something else really that was better for you, but it may not have been how you set out to go in the beginning, but it ended up going in the right direction, and I think every entrepreneur who's been on the show, it's never a straight line. It's always something that they got to without realizing that's where they were heading all the time. So it's pretty interesting how that happens. It
Absolutely.
Really, falls into line with everybody else, I think, who's drawn to really go out there and do something like that. So, it sounds like your theater major experience may really serve you well in what you're doing. Do you feel like you can bring a lot of that to the table with you?
Absolutely. Looking back on it, was a theater degree the best idea? No, it wasn't. But it taught me so many skills in terms of, being comfortable talking in front of people. And then as an actor, I think you're taught to promote yourself a little bit more than perhaps people in other professions, because you have to audition, you have to get your headshots made, you have to constantly be putting yourself out there in a very kind of raw and honest way, which lends itself well to personal branding. I have clients that I coach through my blog, and they have trouble, kind of promoting themselves because they think like they're bragging, but actors, I don't think, struggle with that, because we're all about the attention. So I think it's definitely served me well in the long run.
And I think the thing is also that people often say, about liberal arts or things like that, some people really kind of put it down like, oh, you shouldn't major in that, blah, blah, blah. But you bring so many skills with you from all these different things that you learn, so it's not a thing where you must go learn this one discipline and then you use that discipline for the rest of your life and it better be something that makes you money right away. It's life experience and skills and everything that you apply, so I just have a different take on it. I don't think that there's a bad major ever.
No, I completely agree, and it's hard to get down on those decisions you make when you're younger because A, you're young and your passions are inevitably going to change. I'd like to say in 10 years I'm still going to be jazzed about personal finance, but I don't know. Like something else may come along and really light a fire in me, and I may decide to go do that. But very few people I know are actually using the degrees they went to college for. Exactly. Well, I majored in English, so that's why I'm a big cheerleader for people who say, okay, this is where I'm going, and I'm not going to hear all this other discouraging
stuff that sometimes gets shared with us without our asking. And often family members, they have your best interest in heart, and they're thinking, okay, I want this person to succeed, but you never know how it's all going to come together. So, it's never the way people think. But as far as doing your putting together your brand, when you decided, I'm going to go in this direction, are there some things that you have to do first, or is any planning or strategizing that you have to do in the beginning when you said, okay, I'm going to create this brand?
Yes, actually. I think the best blogs all have a structure to them, and they're treated like businesses, and they're marketed in much the same way that businesses are, but they do it in a way that you don't know that it's happening, which is what makes them really great. So first I had to decide, I knew I wanted to write a blog, and I knew I wanted it to mean something. So I didn't want to just write a blog about what I was having for dinner that day or about the outfit I picked out. I was like, I want to have a purpose. So I had to figure out what that purpose was, and I knew at the time I had an interest in finance, and because I had that interest, I tried talking to my girlfriends about it, and no one really knew kind of what was going on with their money. So I said, hey, let's start a blog for that conversation. So then I started researching personal finance blogs, and I made a list of the ones I liked and what I didn't like and what I wanted to emulate, and then also how I was going to differentiate myself. In 2012, it wasn't quite as crowded, but blogging is an incredibly crowded space now, so you have to be super specific in order to kind of get any type of traction with your readership. So I decided I wanted to do a finance brand that was accessible to women, that was funny and a little bit more lighthearted than maybe what you'd find, and then also incredibly honest. Some people... I mean, everyone knows I blog. If you know me, you know I'm LB in the Money Tree. And my parents and my friends sometimes say, I can't believe you put that out there. And I'm like, well, that's what I want my brand to be. I want it to be total upfront honesty, because that's who I am as a person as well. So really establishing what your brand values are, you have to think about it for a blog much in the same way you do for a business.
And that's an excellent point also, because it has become much more of a crowded field just over the past few years. It just seems like everybody suddenly was like, oh, I have to jump on social media. Oh, I have to have a blog. Oh, it's everybody just kind of swarmed. And it is much different than it was, even just a short time ago. So you really have to find a way to differentiate yourself, and being yourself is what it's all about now, because otherwise people couldn't pick you out from a bunch of other people. Then how can you really stand out that way? So I think that's such an important point to make. But when you working with finance, I mean, do you find a lot of people are really nervous around that topic?
Yes, and then there's also sort of, I get sometimes, because I'm not a certified financial planner or investment advisor, I'm just a real person who makes real money choices and mistakes, and that's kind of what I wanted my brand to be. So sometimes there is a little bit of hesitancy to talk to me because of that, and then also people just aren't so interested in finance. If they are, they're reading the content, but finance blogs oftentimes don't get the traffic that lifestyle blogs or food blogs, or because it's still a very kind of I want to say acquired taste. Is that the
Yeah, I think, that's the thing. It's something that people really need to know about, but they're, sometimes I think people are just really nervous about confronting it.
Absolutely. But that's the whole point is, if we can all start talking about it, then it becomes less and less taboo.
Exactly. That's very true. And making it lighter, because a lot of the blogs, as you were saying, a lot of them are very serious and it's sometimes overwhelming, and you just feel like, someone's just telling you what you shouldn't be doing. You just want to run away because it's so, you already feel uncomfortable sometimes about it, and your money choices and debt. When I was in college, they handed out credit cards. I didn't have a job, for goodness sake, or I work study. I mean, what am I getting? But you kind of get trained from very early to here's a card, and of course you're going to go spend, and then oops, when the bill comes, you're very upset. So we're not really prepared for money the way I think we really should be, and I'm sure you already know that. So I think this is excellent what you're doing. But what is the person or the I guess your ideal reader or person that you like to work with, regarding your financial information?
Who is my ideal reader? Well, I would say I do a little bit of blog coaching for people who want to start their own blogs and or if they have blogs and they want to take it to the next level, I kind of walk them through that. And I always think it's interesting how we create the blogs that we ourselves would want to read. So my ideal reader is me. She's a single or recently married woman. She's in her 20s or 30s, thinking about. Maybe she already kind of knows the money basics, but then wants to know what else she should be doing with her money. But then also, a lot of women read blogs because they want to know that they're not alone. They want to know that there's other people out there. It's kind of like a benchmark, like, oh, she's doing this with her money, I should be doing that, or maybe that's something to think about. Maybe a woman who has a really supercharged career and kind of wants to know where she wants to go and how money can be a tool to help get her there, is what I would say. Like the Olivia Popes of the world, I hope, are reading LB and the Money Tree. I'll say that. Do you watch Scandal?
Yes. And I think, what you were saying as far as, the blog that you would want to read, and I think that's so true. People start businesses a lot of times, or of course with blogging and things like this. It's something that you would wish was out there, or you have a strong feeling about this topic, and you want to put it out there. So a lot of times we're the ideal person ourselves for what we're doing, but then other people can definitely get so much out of it as well. Once they start reading and picking up on the information that you're sharing. So, as far as you building your brand, has it been, I can't say, I don't want to say difficult because I don't think that's the right word, but, what challenges do you find, when you're building a brand, as far as you have an idea of where you're going and what you want to put out there, but are there any challenges, like, that you share with, folks who work with you so they can kind of look out for things that they should be doing? Sure.
Well, the biggest challenge that I see in my own clients and that I've also thought through myself is consistency. I think you see these huge brands or bloggers that you'd like to emulate and you think it happens overnight, but really it's a lot, even in business, it's a lot of small, consistent actions. And blogging is the same way. PR is a ladder. You start by getting mentions in maybe some smaller blogs or smaller press outlets, and then you leverage that to get your name into even bigger publications and things like that. Social media builds on itself. You start with 50 followers and you engage with them, and then hopefully that grows into 1,000 followers and then 10,000. I mean, it's not a one and done thing. I see a lot of people fight with consistency and the amount of time it takes to build a brand. And, I mean, if you're building a brand of you should take your time anyway because you're not going anywhere. So that's one challenge. And then I think another huge challenge is a lot of people aren't super clear on what their brand is, first off. And secondly, they're afraid to pivot when it turns out that their brand needs to change. So they either don't know what their brand is or things have changed, their circumstances have changed, maybe they're not excited, but they're afraid to pivot or think of a new way to frame things, I'll say. And I would say, everyone I know that's a blogger has struggled with those things at some point or another.
Yeah, that's true. It's definitely what you're saying as far as people being aware of what it is that they're trying to put out there, and also if they have to make changes to what they're doing. Those are all very, very important points. But where do you see this your brand going? What's your vision for what you'd like it to become?
Well, ideally, all of the more well-known personal finance experts, Dave Ramsey, Suze Orman, they're not millennials. As millennials come of age, there's going to be a need for a personal finance expert for my generation, and that's what I hope it to be. I want to write a book before I'm 30. I'm really pushing for that. And then there's also my side business where I do a lot of blog coaching. I do marketing and branding strategy for clients. So it all kind of ties in together. Perhaps sometimes I spread myself too thin, but I have a lot of different interests that I want to keep growing and exploring before I commit to just one thing. So that's sort of the future. I've been blogging for 3 years. It's been a really great journey. I hope the blog continues to grow in terms of readership and engagement. I really, I'm so happy if I continue to grow at the rate I do. I think I'll always be happy. But
so, and you were saying about engagement as well. I know a lot of people, they have issues with, okay, is anyone reading this? How do I get people to, even comment or interact with me? What are some things that you have done to get that going for you, for your blog?
So I always answer my comments. If someone cares enough to come to my site and leave me a really thoughtful comment, I can take the time to answer them and just let them know, hey, thank you. I've been a little lax about that lately, but that's something that was always very important to me. I usually answer everything I get on Twitter. I answer every email because I'm still so flattered when people write into me and say that something I wrote touched them, or if they have a question, they felt comfortable enough coming to me. So I'm still very, very much in the honeymoon phase in terms of audience engagement. I would say social media is a great way to get people in the door and make connections and make people feel like they know you. If you go and you comment on other people's blogs, there's a great blogger community, whatever niche you blog in, of people who write the same things you do that are like-minded and would probably like to get to know you. Right. So that's a good way to build these communities. And then also I think if you're gonna build a brand with an active community, you have to be very honest about who you are. Like, everyone knows my full name and everyone knows I live in Atlanta, and I share all these details about myself, so it feels a little bit more like I'm a person that and you just happen to read my blog in terms of the other way around.
Yeah, that's a good point, because I think, not long ago, a lot of people going to business were told that, you really have to make everything look like your business is much bigger, and there's a whole bunch of people behind it, and you can't just be you. You've got to just project an image, and that really has changed in such a short time, to be honest. It's that whole idea has just been flipped around, where now it's, you're really supposed to just kind of be yourself and that kind of thing. And it just seems to me that some people have a problem with that because maybe they're not comfortable, So if someone's coming to you and wants to blog, but they're not really sure what they should say, how they should present themselves, what are some things that you tell them?
So I have a lot of worksheets around strategizing about your blog and thinking about what you want it to mean. But I always say this to my clients, and I believe this 100%, is the internet is so big, and there's so much content on the internet. It's almost impossible statistically for a topic that you're writing about to be new. Like, someone somewhere has already written about it. And especially in terms of like gaming, the search traffic game, I think it's important to remember that people don't read what you're writing, they read why you write it. Just like there's tons of, products, there's tons of different peanut butters, but you only buy one, and there's a reason. And it's the same with blogging or branding or anything. It's people people buy and they engage in the why of it all. So I always encourage my clients to get super clear about, why are you doing this? Why does this story need to be told? Why does this blog need to exist?
That's a good point. Definitely.
Thank you.
It is, because I'm sure a lot of people don't have an answer. It's like, why? I don't know. So I can imagine, because I think some people just get excited about just the idea of having a blog or having a podcast or whatever it is they have. But I don't think they really know why they want to do it. You're like, okay.
But that's so important, because it does get hard. Like, in any endeavor, it's not gonna go the way you want it to go. Things are gonna take off the way you think they will. You're gonna get discouraged. Having that why, I call it the North Star in my worksheets, but is going to guide you through those inevitable rough times when you feel like giving up. And if you give up, you're never going to get to where you want to be.
Yeah, that's very true as well. If you don't know what's the point of it, and because it does take a lot. And I think a lot of people underestimate the work that they have to do to build something from scratch. I think they this idea that it's really easy just to go out there and make a splash, and it's a really crowded field, and it's just getting more and more crowded. So it's not a simple thing like that. So I think it's important for anybody listening to really take that in before they make a leap or even beat themselves up thinking, oh, I'm a failure because they started last week and they wanted to be at the top this week. It's more than that, definitely. So we have about 3 minutes left. Please share where folks can find you online.
So they can find me on my website. That's LB and the Money Tree. It's LBEE and the Money Tree, EE.com. I always have to spell it out. I get a lot of visitors just plugging in LB. I'm on Twitter and Instagram at LB Money Tree. I'm also on YouTube. I have this great web series called Awkward Money Chat. We're in our second season right now. So yeah, that's where you can find me.
It's just so exciting, because people can just say, okay, I'm going to have my own webisodes and I'm going to have this and that. It's just wonderful, because I'm older than you, and I remember when there were just 3 channels on TV. Yes, I'm that old. So, and it was, now it's so much that sometimes you're just like, I can't take any more. There's too many things for me to look at.
Beautiful. I think it's beautiful, though, how, it levels the playing field. Anyone can do anything now with the Internet,
Yeah. That's the best thing about it. That it really is, because if so much of it was closed to the average person getting out there, and now it just isn't the case. So, I think it's really exciting, and I totally agree, for folks to realize it's there for you, don't just sit here. It's jump out there, even if you don't make it the way you want, at least you tried it, and try something else, it's a bad thing. So, as far as your branding and putting together the whole idea of your blog, was it even a name? I love the name. It's just a nice ring to it. Did you have to work to pull it together? Did it just come to you before you started?
I definitely sat down and I had a little brainstorming session, but I'm Lauren, which was a very popular name in the 80s. So in my grade school classes, I was always LB because there was always, Lauren, LB, LC, whoever. And so I was like, well, it's a blog about money. Why don't we just call it LB and the Money Tree? And then it's great because the brand can grow with me. Yes. Because, we all have money trees and they're there our whole lives. And I'll always be the metaphor is growing my money tree. So it'll always be around. I've lucked out. It kind of just came to me, but I definitely had to think about it.
I know it's really catchy and it stays in your head, and it's perfect because it's perfect fit for what you're doing. So it's all of those things, they start falling together and how you brand and present yourself. So it's important to just have that thing that's going to stick in people's minds, as I'm sure you know. So for those people listening, just more to take in and just absorb and understand that you really have to kind of have a plan and a strategy, and definitely seek out Lauren if you want someone to help guide you, because doing it by yourself can be tough if you're not sure what you're doing, and you want to check with someone who knows how to build something that you yourself have. So we're down to the last few seconds. Are there any final thoughts that we didn't cover that you want to share?
Well, I just want to thank you for having me. This is the best interview I think I've ever done. You made me feel so comfortable. So I'll just say that.
Well, thank you.
You're
thank
welcome.
you so much. No, I just enjoy talking to people who go out there and do their thing. I just think that it's just exciting, and I just love to hear it because it inspires me too. Because a lot of times we're on our own, or I'm a writer also. I'm with the computer, one with the computer, and sometimes you're like, oh, it's just nice to know that people are out there doing their thing, and it's just, I'm glad to see that. It's exciting because it wasn't always that way. So the more opportunities we have out here that everybody else can learn from and grow, and that's what it's about. So I want to thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you for what you're doing. And, I hope to hear more, about you and your brand, and perhaps you can come and join us again and give us an update on what you're doing, and especially when you're going to do your book. I would love to hear more about that as well.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you.
You're so welcome. So, everyone, we've come to the end of another show. They go by really fast, but, I really hope that you will check out Lauren's blog. It'll be in the Money Tree, and you will definitely check out her coaching services if you're interested in blogging, and recommend the show to your friends, and listen, download on social media. It will also be on iTunes probably in a week or so, so that's always another place to go. Search for Women Entrepreneurs Radio and subscribe there as well. So, once again, Women Entrepreneurs Radio with your host, Deborah Bailey. Thank you so much for joining me, and we'll see you again next time. Bye-bye now.